back at it again, and we have one with Ben Shapiro and Brandon Tatum. Yeah, let's dive in.
Another week, another ginned-up controversy over supposed police malfeasance, this time in Akron, Ohio, over the shooting of a supposedly unarmed black man. When I say supposedly, I mean that he was unarmed when he was shot. He was not unarmed about 20 seconds before. Joining us on the line to discuss is Brandon Tatum. He's host of the Officer Tatum Show and podcast. Brandon, great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me on.
So let's talk about this latest incident. The media have covered this as another terrible police shooting of an unarmed black man. This is the shooting, of course, of Jayland Walker over in Akron, Ohio. It required curfew on July 4th because people started looting shops and breaking windows. What were the actual circumstances surrounding the shooting of Jayland Walker?
Yeah, I think that it's just very sad that the media has to lie and family and the attorneys have to lie about the situation because this is completely avoidable. So this young man, obviously, the night before this happened, he was in a pursuit again where he fled and ended up getting away. And so the following day, which is the situation we're talking about today, is he refused to stop for a simple traffic violation. And he not only refused to stop, once he continued the pursuit or initiated the pursuit, he pulled out a gun, according to authorities, and also poll cam from the freeway, catches him pointing the gun out of the window and firing a shot at police. Then he takes them on a several-minute chase. He gets out of the car, jumps out while it's rolling with a ski mask on. He approaches the police, or at least turns at the police once. They use a taser at him. It does not work. He continued to run. He faced them again. They believe he's a threat, and they ended up shooting him.
So, Brandon.
Wow. So, I mean, he broke it down a lot further than what I knew. Apparently, they had made contact with him the day before, and he got away. And I didn't know he had turned around twice. Obviously, I didn't watch all of the video footage. I have seen one clip of, what all went down. I didn't watch it from all of the body cams. I think all of the body cams have been released. And, one thing that I've noticed, throughout this journey, checking a lot of this stuff out, is that I'm finding that the left lies a lot. They lie a lot. They like to enrage folks. And it's a shame because, like Brandon Tatum said, if they told the truth, a lot of the looting and having a curfew on the 4th, that all could have been avoided. Just tell the truth. I mean, obviously, if you send around towards the police, logic tells you are getting pumped full of it. Full of lead. That's obvious. I feel like that should be common sense. You shot at the police. I don't understand. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. Y'all let me know in the comment section. Maybe there's something I'm missing. But as far as I know, you shoot up at the police and you've pretty much signed your death wish, You pretty much signed on the dotted line. But like I said, let me know if I'm wrong in my thinking in the comment section, please.
One of the things that the left likes to do with this sort of situation is then they look on the body and they find there's no gun on the suspect. But there's no way for the police officers to know that there's no gun on the suspect, considering that literally a minute before he was shooting a gun out the window. And as it turns out, the gun was in the car, correct?
Yeah, correct. He ended up leaving the gun in the car. They found that out after the fact, but it's called reasonableness. It's not reasonable for a police officer to somehow have the intuition to know where a gun is at all times. The police officers are going on a presumption based on the behaviors of a particular suspect. I mean, there's no indication that this guy has ditched the gun. He's jumping out of the car with a ski mask. He shot at the cops before. He's posturing himself, turning into shooting, like taking a shooting stance. All of those things indicate a threat of serious bodily injury or death, which give police officers the ability to use deadly force against you.
So, Brandon, you obviously served as a police officer for quite a while. And what we're watching right now is a complete breakdown in law and order in the United States, as the media have decided that anytime a police officer does his job, we are not going to actually report on the actual facts of the case. We're simply going to report on what is likely to make the most clicks happen. And so when you read a headline like this suspect was unarmed, what we're supposed to take away from this is that this is exactly like George Floyd. This is somebody who was under arrest and then was shot, or this is somebody who was never with a firearm. You're never supposed to take away the actual facts of the case. They always bury that in paragraph 4. And it seems to me that the media bear responsibility for the vast increase in crime rates.
I think what will start happening, and you've seen it start to happen a little bit, but I think it's going to start happening even more rapidly if we don't turn these things around, is that in these areas that want to defund the police so much, you're just not going to have a police force. Police are just going to start quitting, retiring, or retiring as soon as they're able to. I'm sure there are some officers in, a little bit of a pickle. They've worked long enough to where like they don't want to just walk away because, obviously it's difficult to, start over, restart your career after a certain point. Not saying it's impossible, but there's a lot of people that don't want to do that, and reasonably so. Guys and gals, will retire at their earliest convenience. People aren't going to be signing up to be police officers, so eventually you won't have a police force. Crime will be, if you think crime is bad now, crime will be absolutely rampant, and people will be screaming to have something be done. And I guarantee you one of those things is going to be, take away the Second Amendment. We don't need Second Amendment. I guarantee you that's going to come back up when these areas they're already pretty much overrun with crime, but they're really going to be overrun with crime once they don't have any police officers to respond to anything. So it's only going to bite them in the butt, and they aren't going to realize it until it's too late. Because I've said it before, these same individuals that want to defund the police call the police when they need help. What happens when the police say, no, you don't value us, we're putting our lives on the line every single day, and you tell us we're a piece of crap, you tell us we're worthless, you take away our funding? No, we're not coming. What happens then? Y'all let me know in the comment section where you think this is all heading, but that's where I think it's going. But like I said, I could always be wrong.
1,000%. I think the media is responsible, and also there's pundits who are out there. Sean King is one of them, a guy who poses himself as a black man. He's not a black man. He's actually a white man. I don't know if he wants to be transracial or not, but he's posing himself as a black man. He's running around lying. His initial statement came out and it had millions of views. He was saying that this was a good kid. He didn't do nothing wrong. He was a Lyft driver. I mean, all of these things that the media is doing and some of these black leaders are doing are setting young men up for failure. Because if you're walking out of your house and you've just listened to a headline, you think that this could happen to you. You could get shot 60 times from being a Lyft driver. That is absolutely absurd. I wish that they would be honest about the situation, because if the police were acting in malice or they did something wrong, we can hold them accountable. But we also need to hold suspects accountable, because young men need to understand this will never happen to you if you do not take police on a high-speed chase, shoot at them, and jump out of a moving car with a ski mask on. I wish that we would be balanced in our perspective, and therefore we can see a change in our country.
So, Brandon, to switch topics for just a moment, a lot of focus in on this terrible shooting in Highland Park in the Chicago region. And, I did note yesterday on the show that there's always this vast media discrepancy between the kinds of shootings that they cover and the kind of shootings that they don't. So nearly every weekend in Chicago, more black people are shot in Chicago than were shot at this parade.
Yep. And you guys have heard me say that over and over. I feel like a broken record at this point. It's like a broken record. Everybody knows about what's going on in Chicago, but nobody seems to care because it's not going to make headlines. You want to post about the Highland Park and Sandy Hook and whatever else, Uvalde, and rightfully so. Those situations are tragic. But what's happening to these black folks in Chicago is also very, very tragic and sad too. So let's talk about that. Let's address that. Let's fix that problem as well. I could bring up a video almost every single day about something crazy happening in Chicago. Just about every single day if I wanted to. Oh, another shooting. Another shooting. Don't let a holiday come around. Multiple bodies. Multiple people hit. You don't see it on the mainstream media though. You might see it on their internet site, on their website, but you have to scroll to find it. It's not front page news. It's somewhere buried in there. So they can say that they reported it.
This parade obviously makes national news whenever there's a sort of spectacular, out of the box, and I mean spectacular in sort of imagistic terms, a horrifying shooting like this. It makes national news. Why do you think it is that the media are completely willing to ignore the violence in Chicago every weekend when there's a mass shooting in exactly the same area, but it affects white people? Then all of a sudden the media are covering it.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not sexy. If you see that young black men, and many of these cases are gang related, they're killing each other every single weekend all over the country. And so nobody want to touch that elephant in the room, because it's a difficult process to fix all of the, or undo all of the things that I believe that the left, the Democrats, have done in these inner city communities. They don't want to fix it. They don't want to talk about it. It's gonna allude to their failures. But what they can talk about is if a white person is involved, or if a white police officer is involved with a black man, oh, that's sexy. They can put that all over the media. They can get a lot of clicks, and they can build a narrative that then helps them politically, just as much as it helps them cover up their flaws that they've introduced into the inner city community.
Now, Brandon, one of the things that comes up a lot in the context of mass shootings like this is that there are always red flags. It turns out that the police have already had interactions with a number of the mass shooters that we have seen. And then people put the blame on the cops for that sort of stuff. And it seems to me that you can't put the blame on the cops when they do not have the power to actually do anything about a lot of these suspects. So in this particular case, the cops came and they took away his knives. They didn't actually have legal cause to arrest him because the parents decided that they didn't want to press charges or they didn't want to provide evidence. The mental health system is not built to actually.
I heard that the parents could be in some deep crap for this last situation that happened as well. I haven't done too much digging on it. If anybody has, let me know in the comment section. But that's one of the last things that I did watch a video on, is that the parents are going to be in a load of it.
Actually involuntarily commit people who are obviously dangerous to themselves and to others more than 48 or 72 hours. You know, if there were to be changes to the law, it seems like those changes to the law would have to be predicated on changes to, for example, involuntary commitment. But basically what we're now asking is for the police to act as mental health workers, and the mental health workers don't have the powers of the police.
Right. This is a very touchy subject. I know a lot of people on the conservative side are afraid of what we call red flags. I think the red flags are a slippery slope, but I think there's variations to it that I think can be applied. In the state of Arizona, we have something similar. We don't just arbitrarily take people's guns because a third-party person anonymously makes a report. That's not the way it happens. You have to literally be committed by a mental health professional and deemed a danger to yourself or other people through a committal process. And once you have been committed, they can remove your firearms. But once you are deemed to be okay, you can do outpatient treatment. They give you your firearms back. It's not a thing where they can take your guns away indefinitely. And we have seen scenarios like this where violent crimes could be prevented. One of the major things that happened in Tucson was a guy was in the military. He was suffering from PTSD. He thought he was in Afghanistan fighting a war in his backyard, low crawling with an AR-15. He was literally losing his mind. I believe that we helped him by getting him the help he needed and then removing his guns and giving them back to him when he was better. These situations, I mean, what do you want us to do? If this guy comes out and he's a complete lunatic and he has an AR-15 with a house full of bullets, what do we want to do? Just wait for him to shoot people up? I mean, there has to be something that we can do as a society to curb some of these individuals once we find out that they are crazy. All of these mass shootings that we've seen, these individuals are showing clear signs and symptoms of a mass shooter. This is not somebody blowing up and getting mad over the weekend. These people are clearly deranged and crazy, and they're giving us signs and symptoms that they're going to do something like this.
So yeah, I think Brandon was right there at the end. I mean, I think he was right throughout, but especially there at the end. A lot of these situations, there are similarities. One, a lot of them don't have fathers in the home growing up. We've touched on that subject in past videos. Another thing is they show signs. They give signs. How many times has one of these tragedies happened, and then we look back and they made a social media post. They made some crazy statements to some friends or some family. They had a mental breakdown, or some cops came to the house and took the knives from them. Something happens before it gets to this point. It's the fact that we allow it to continue is part of the issue. And like Brandon said, red flag, it's a slippery slope. It's a very, very slippery slope. It's not something that I've studied a whole lot, so I'm not going to act like I'm the most knowledgeable on it. But from what Brandon was explaining to me, I think the process that he was explaining would be fair enough that I would be okay with, as long as it's not expanded anywhere beyond that. I think that would help tremendously. In the example that he used, a war veteran who we appreciate for their service was suffering from PTSD, an army crawling in their backyard. Well, clearly there's something wrong there. Normal people don't army crawl in their backyard unless they're, doing some extra training. But I'm sure he wasn't doing that. He had already come back from war. He's not training for anything. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that we as a society have to do a better job at stepping in and helping those individuals before it gets to some of these levels. It's the way that I see it. But as always, you guys can let me know how you felt about it in the comment section. Shout out to Brandon Tatum. Shout out to Ben Shapiro. Great video, especially Brandon, who explained everything perfectly. Obviously, we checked out Ben's work. We know what Ben Shapiro can do. My goodness, especially in debates. Ben can absolutely destroy some folks. But yeah, you guys can let me know how you feel about the red flag situation that, Brandon was speaking about. If you think that is fair, or if you're just totally against, any type of red flag laws in general. Let me know in the comment section below. Like, share, comment, and of course, hit that subscribe button before you go. And if you would like to support the channel more than you already have by watching it to this point, my PayPal link is in the description box below. Peace and love. I'm out.